Since changing the name of the Eclectic Americana Friday morning drive time radio show on January 20th, 1989 to the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club, the DJs in the collective have strived to entertain and inform our listeners. Airing from 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific at KZSC 88.1 FM in Santa Cruz, California, the Bushwhackers usually have 2 interviews a week, each airing for about half an hour. We're not afraid to ask questions or admit that we don't know something, and we don't mind taking deep dives or following a tangent as we get into how sausage is made in local, county, or state politics, or learning about things going on in our community, or discussions with artists. Our interviews are not scripted and are produced by myself, Dangerous Dan Orange. Over here, we can say good morning, KZSC, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. 28th District Assemblymember Gail Pellerin. It was the 29th. There was redistricting, but it's now the 28th.
I don't know why they changed all the numbers, so it gets confusing.
Just to keep us all on our toes. Okay. Bushwhackers, how sausage is made.
Yes.
Remind me, there's a deadline in February that any bill that's going to be contemplated in this legislative session has to be in by that date. And
yes,
I remember
today.
It's February, but it's today?
February 20. Is it today or February 22nd? That's what I have in my notes.
Today's the day that we have to introduce bills.
Whoa.
So everybody's getting some of those. In fact, I think I got a last-minute bill in last night that I will most likely carry, even though it kind of puts me above my comfort zone. But yeah, we are definitely all scrambling to put our bill packages together, and today's the deadline. And, of course, deadlines, there's rules governing deadlines, so rules can always be waived, regarding those deadlines, but that's not the best way to go about doing business. So everyone tries to get their bills in by today.
Right, but I remember last year, I think it was last year, when the Watsonville Hospital for-profit corporation said that they were going to declare bankruptcy and close the hospital, yeah. John Laird took a bill that he had submitted, I think, for coastal resilience, and he took every word out of it, and he put in all new words, and that's how we learned about gut and amend.
Gut and amend, yes.
So, yes. Gail Pellerin, have you submitted a bill that you intend to gut and amend if something happens? So you've submitted something, wink, wink, but it's just not going to go anywhere unless there's, the proverbial stuff hits the fan.
Well, I don't think anyone ever puts a bill in thinking that they're going to use it as a gut and amend. We'll put spot bills in, meaning that we want to do something on the environment, but we're not sure, so we put in something that amends one of the environmental codes, but then we still have to have language on that.
So you call those spot bills?
Later this month, yeah. So I think when the gut and amend happens is, let's say that months into the session you have a bill that's languishing, it's not getting a lot of support, so it becomes a vehicle you can use to transform it into whatever emergency situation or urgent policy you're trying to do.
So you call that a spot bill. So it's not entirely formed, but you have to get it in by the deadline, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a spot bill that we introduced dealing with youth intervention transit companies. We had a situation here. I don't know if you follow that, with these young kids, Maya and Sebastian, who were taken from their home, and the transport was a little shocking, the video that was put out there. And so we do have a bill working on that policy on transit companies. So it's not all fleshed out yet. So we're trying to get the final details on that one.
Now, Gail, as you're creating a bill, as a college student, I'm very familiar with deadlines, and I find myself very frequently struggling to or failing to to make them. And I know where I am when I'm trying to meet a deadline for an essay or something. I'm in my bed, just like typing away on a Google Doc, frantically drinking coffee. I'd love to get like, if you could set the scene for us, when you're writing a bill, like physically writing a bill, what specifically does that entail? Do you have your team around you? Is it just you, sitting at your desk, typing away and drinking coffee on the side in like a Google Doc? What's the physicality of it? How are bills written?
Well, first of all, I don't drink coffee.
Oh, there you go.
Free. So I don't have that, but I might have a good glass of ice water or a cup of a decaf tea.
It's much healthier.
So here we go. Definitely our staff. My staff has been working frantically, meeting these deadlines. Some of the bills come to us already formed, like I'm carrying a bill for the Santa Clara County Water District, and they already had that pretty fleshed out, and so that was an easy one to put across the desk. But some take a little bit more work. I'm doing a bill on access to, let me see, which one was that one? It was emergency prescription bills, refills, and I'm working with the Board of Pharmacists and on fleshing this one out a little bit more. So, some take a little more time, and you can certainly amend it down the road as well. And bills that don't quite make it through this session become what we call two-year bills, and we pursue those again next year when we're back.
Okay, so if a bill isn't passed out of its house of origin, it can still be dealt with next year?
It would become a two-year bill, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, at the very beginning, you mentioned that you submit. Well, hello, doggies. You said you submitted a bill, and I think you said it was something like it was like above your comfort zone. Take us into that one.
Which one did I say was?
Or it was something. It was a reach for you or a stretch. I can't remember your words. Maybe we'll just.
I just said right now.
No, it was at the very beginning, the top of the hour. Well, okay, let's just dive into.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. This is Bushwhackers. People expect, sometimes a little rough and bumpy road, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just go through the bills that you've submitted.
Okay. So I've got a few on elections in the election world that we're working on. So one that deals with the no party preference ballots that people get in a presidential primary. And if you are a no party preference voter in a presidential primary, you must request a party ballot if you want to vote on the office of president. So we're trying to work with the committees and Secretary of State's office to find a way for our no party preference voters to still have an option to cast a vote for president if they get that ballot in the mail and don't realize they have a ballot without the office of president on it, and it's the last day to turn it in. So we're trying to work out a mechanism so they can indeed vote in the office of president. And then we've got some cleanup language to do on getting a replacement ballot where it's not going to require you to have an original wet signature. We're trying to do some candidate filing streamlining. We're doing something to help return voted ballots in a more expeditious way. So if you are a vote-by-mail voter, instead of putting that ballot in the mail on those last couple of days before the election, you could actually walk it into a vote center and return it there, and then it gets counted election night. We're working on some other bills dealing with voter registration. We have an access for voters with disabilities. And like I said, we have the emergency prescription refill bill. Maybe that's what I was talking about, where we're going to the Board of Pharmacists and trying to find the steps there to make sure people can keep consistent with their medication if they do fall short and they need just an emergency supply. I've got a bill I'm working on with Planned Parenthood to do behavioral health screening when people come in for reproductive services. I've got a bill on fictitious business names. I got a bill from the Santa Clara County Valley Water District, one with the state parks with Semper Virens Fund, and I've got a craft cannabis bill, one on psychiatric advance directives, and then this youth intervention transit companies. That's the one we said we're still fleshing out. And then I have one on mobile home parks. So, and then I think, like I said, there's one that came in last night that I'm pretty sure we're going to carry. So, it's a good size load.
That's an impressive list, but it makes me wonder. You were previously the county clerk in Santa Cruz for how many years?
27 and a half, either elections manager or county clerk. Yes.
So no party preference, replacement ballot, candidate filing, expediting, voter registration, voters with disabilities. Gail, did you just have a list on your desk of, okay, if I'm ever in Sacramento, I'm going to get this fixed? And so finally you get elected, you get elected to the assembly and you pull that file out, dust it off, and kind of clap your hands and say, okay, that's
in that category. Yes, I had 3 that were in that level of like, yeah, I really want to do something here. And then some were brought to me by our California Association of Clerks and Election Officials. So some ideas that they had. So, yeah, I think it's a good, solid bill package, and we are going to be working diligently to get them all across to the governor. Yes, that's our job this year.
The California Association of Clerks. Who knew? And that they would have a priority list.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do a great job of tracking all the elections bills. And there's different divisions of the California Association of Clerks and Elections Officials. It's the election officials, but it's also county clerks that deal with fictitious business names and marriage licenses. So I got that FBN bill from that division of our state association. And, I'm proud to be able to work with them in this capacity.
Just real quickly, fictitious business names, FBNs, and marriage licenses. What's that about?
Well, when I don't have anything on marriage licenses, but on fictitious business names, currently the law requires the registrant's home address to be required for the filing and publishing of the FBN, and this will remove that requirement. So it's just a good public safety measure so people's home addresses aren't out there unnecessarily.
Gail, I have a question. So last time we didn't get the chance to talk about the reign that you have over the water parks and wildlife area, and then you just brought up something about the parks bill as well. Would you mind talking about that a little more?
Sure. So the committees I'm sitting on are going to be elections, natural resources, water parks and wildlife, rules committee, and appropriations. And water, parks, and wildlife, the primary jurisdictions are water resources, flood management, which is very timely right now, fish and game, parks and recreation, and wildlife issues. And the bill that I'm doing for the Santa Clara County Water District or Valley Water District is basically it amends their act to reduce the cost of financing water and flood protection infrastructure projects. And it cleans up some obsolete provisions, and it addresses a sunsetting provision regarding per diem of their board of directors. So it's mainly the main gist of the bill is to help them get a tool to allow them to finance their water and flood protection projects.
So you're on the Rules Committee, and since today is the deadline for all the bills that will be addressed in this Assembly session, if I'm not mistaken, they all go to the Rules Committee. So the Rules Committee is on the hot seat as of 5 p.m. today. And the Rules Committee then figures out which committee to send every bill to. Every bill's got to go to a committee, correct?
Yes, yeah, but Rules can still be doing that work next week. So bills will come across the desk today and get introduced, and then Rules next week will be referring them to the various committees.
Okay, so it's like a traffic cop, but is there drama involved? Do people want their bill to go to a committee where they think it might have a more favorable view, or is there ones where if the committee chair is not a fan of a bill, they can send it someplace where they think it will be quashed?
Well, that's certainly we haven't had that drama yet, but I suspect that could occur, and it also occurs when bills are maybe double referred or sometimes even triple referred. So a bill may be referred to 2 or 3 different policy committees, and so a member may come in and say, "Hey, I'm arguing that this isn't the right way to do this. Let's do it to just this one committee, or let's do 2 instead of 3." So, but I haven't seen that yet because we're still just kind of getting wrapped up. So I suspect that we'll have longer Rules Committee meetings as the weeks go on.
So in the same way that you divvy up your bills and hand, a bill to a particular staff member, here, you work on this one, does the committee chair of the Rules Committee divvy up this big pile of bills and hand 40 bills to each person of the committee and look to that person to figure out where the best fit for it to go to be referred to committee? Gail, I'm asking how sausage is made. I have no idea, and I'm just looking for it.
To tell you the truth, I'm not. I believe there's a staff at the Rules Committee, and they go through all the bills, and they determine, they make a recommendation on which committees those bills will be referred. That goes onto an agenda that the Rules Committee considers in their meeting, and if anybody objects to that, they would be in there to object to it. So It's actually gone very smoothly so far, and they do a lot of work, those committee staff, to get those bills identified and put and referred to the correct committee.
And then is there a deadline for the Rules Committee to send things out to committee, or you're just kind of chipping away at it and you've got, weeks, months to kind of deal with it?
They're going to be ending, they need to refer the bills to the committees in time for them to hear them. So, so their work's going to be very busy in these next few weeks as all these new bills are getting introduced across the desk.
If you're just joining us, folks, we're talking to our California Assembly member, Gail Pellerin. This is the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club on KZSE Santa Cruz. I'm Dangerous Dan.
I'm Calamity Kyle.
I'm Chaos.
So, Gail, you mentioned that, there's the first pass that the Rules Committee staff performs on all these bills. Are there bills that don't make it past that first pass that the staff kind of does, the first judgment call that they make to forward them to you? How many bills go into the Rules Committee and how many bills come out?
Well, everything gets referred.
Okay.
So everything will get referred to a committee. So the places where bills can stop is in policy committee. Sometimes they just don't get a vote out of committee. Sometimes they get a courtesy vote out of committee just to keep the bill moving. If the bill costs any money, it will end up in appropriations, where we hold those bills that cost a lot of money until after we get the May revise and we have a really good idea on where the state stands on our revenues and expenditures, and then we will determine how many of those bills can actually be moved out and moved on that do cost money without straining or overstraining our budget. And then they go through the assembly to be the assembly floor to be voted on. And then once that bill passes the floor, it goes through the same process over in the Senate. So it goes to their Rules Committee, it gets referred to their policy committees, it will go to their Appropriations Committee if it costs money, it goes to their floor. If they make any amendments to the bill, then it comes back to the Assembly for concurrence in those Senate amendments. So, and the same happens with the Senate bills. So once we get through one house, you're not done. You got the other house, you still have to get it through.
Right. So
and then, of course, it goes to the governor, and then you lobby the governor for a signature.
Right. So anything that costs money gets held until, you said, after the May revise. So that's when we get a better idea of what the state's revenue and expenditures look like. And all of those bills are in the, I'm putting up air quotes, in the suspense file, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. That's what they call it. Yeah.
The suspense file.
Very suspenseful. How many bills are we talking, Gail?
Thousands.
Wow.
Wow.
Jeez, that staff must work hard.
Yeah. I mean, my bill numbers go from 292 to 1334. So, so you suspect that there's a lot of more bills that came in after 1334. And of course, the Assembly has twice as many members, so we will have more bills than the Senate does. So.
Right. So the last time we spoke, we were kind of reeling from the storms, and we talked about the damage to West Cliff. We talked about assessments ongoing. We talked about disaster recovery centers. Where are we, and is there anything you would like people in the district to know about in terms of disaster recovery? What's going on with West Cliff? Does Sacramento have any visibility of that at all?
Oh, yeah. I think the area that really took a brunt of these storms is San Lorenzo Valley, and where they've got roads that are closed. People are still cut off from their homes of getting delivery of propane and water and supplies. So it's a pretty dire situation in San Lorenzo Valley. Yes, West Cliff is a beautiful coastal walkway, and it's devastated by the storms. And, like you've seen it, the roads out, the walkways out, and there's plans ahead that people are working together to repair that and come up with, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be one lane? Or are we going to try to do 2 lanes? How that's going to look. But definitely they're working on that. But I've been focusing a lot of my attention on the San Lorenzo Valley and getting these roads open, getting them the supplies they need, getting them connected to FEMA and the State Office of Emergency Services. And it's incredible the work that they've done. And that the word that we're hearing is that Highway 9 will be open on March the 4th, which is just phenomenal how quickly they were able to get this road cleared, because that was a pretty devastating landslide.
And is the Disaster Recovery Center still open up at the Felton Library?
That has closed, but there is a way for people to continue to apply for aid. They could do it online, and if they have any questions or problems, they can definitely reach out to my district office. And we have Maureen McCarty there, my district director, and Lizette Jones, and they will help connect folks to the appropriate state or federal agencies or county to get the assistance and resources they need.
Got it. Now you've got three district offices, one in the Morgan Hill Government Center, one at the Santa Cruz County office, and I can't remember. Did you settle on a location in Santa Clara County?
We are very close. We did. We're working. We were out there Monday looking at locations, and I think we're moving ahead with one, but I'm not positive. But yes, we are trying to get an office in Santa Clara County and hire staff there as well.
Got you. Okay, so today's the deadline to submit bills. Is there a nickname for it, kind of like a suspense file? Is a drop dead date? Is there a nickname for the bill deadline?
No, they're just deadline to introduce bills. That's it.
Is today. So everybody's hustling. And do you start to get lobbied by other assembly members immediately, or did that start weeks ago in terms of where you sit on the Rules Committee or, the other committees that you're on?
Well, a lot of members, including myself, the bills that we have, we've been sending those to other members asking for co-authors. So that's a whole other piece of this when you want to get support. And if somebody's going to co-author your bill, they're most likely going to vote for it. So it's a good way of securing those votes and that momentum for that bill early on. So a lot of us are working on getting those co-authors.
And do you look across the aisle? Do you look for geographic representation? Because we represent, coastal community. Do you look for somebody from the Great Valley or somebody from the East Side? When you're looking for co-authors, what's the strategy?
Yeah, sometimes it's very strategic. And, I think it's always a good idea to make sure you have a good representation of bills from both political persuasions. And sometimes it is a regional bill where you're going to seek out people who represent Santa Clara County to support a bill for Santa Clara County. So it varies depending on what the bill is. But sometimes people just send it out to every member and say, hey, will you sign on? So,
Gail, when you buy a car, it's got new car smell. When you start in the assembly, does it still have new assembly smell?
It does. Every time I walk into the Capitol building, I just get goosebumps. I think it's such a magical place. It's so beautiful, lit up at night, and it's so quiet early in the morning, and it's just an impressive and fabulous place to work, and I'm really, truly honored for the opportunity to do this work.
And are you commuting back and forth to the district? With the deadline in Sacramento, my assumption is you're up in Sacramento today, but will you then rotate back through the district?
Actually, I'm in the district today because I was speaking at a Planned Parenthood event last night because all of our work pretty much got done yesterday. But there is this one looming bill that came in last night that will probably be put across the desk, but my staff will be able to do that.
And that's the behavioral health bill with Planned Parenthood. Tell us a little bit more about that.
No, the one that I was referring to that's going over today, I can't even remember what it was, to tell you the truth. But it's a bill for Santa Clara County. And I just was reading it last night about 11 o'clock, and I sent to my staff saying, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, even though it's a push. But the behavioral health bill I'm doing in Planned Parenthood, that's the one that establishes a behavioral health integration pilot program to provide screening, referrals, and interventions for Californians who are at risk for mild to moderate mental health conditions in reproductive health centers.
Got it. Dana sent in a text. People can send texts, by the way, to 831-459-4036. And even though it's the same phone number that we're talking to you on, with you on right now, it will pop up on the screen. Dana sends in a note saying FEMA is still working out of the Felton Library.
Oh, they are? Okay. Well, I was told they were closing on the 10th, so that's great that they're still there.
Thanks,
Wonderful
Dana.
News. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
My guess is all the other departments are not there anymore, but that's great. FEMA's still on the ground.
Okay, so we just dove into the Planned Parenthood bill. Do do you want to tell us a little bit about any of your voter bills? Or you said there was one about sempervirens, the Redwoods Fund.
Right. So that's the one that it seeks to ease the transfer of private lands to the state parks. And sempervirens fund would purchase property from landowners, which would eventually be transferred to the state parks for land conservation purposes. So it's basically just helping streamline them getting lands into their conservation programs.
Got it. Okay, that's sempervirens. Any of your voter bills? We got about 3 minutes left.
3 minutes left. Okay, so
you had the replacement ballot cleanup, candidate filing expedite, voter registration, voters with disabilities.
Yeah. So the voters with disabilities, it eliminates the requirement that a voter with disabilities issue a declaration under oath before receiving assistance. Currently, that's required by law. The voter has to say, yes, I need assistance. And so it allows them to vote a regular ballot outside of any voting location as well, and requires that their signage for disability access be in front of the voting location. So it's just something that I think it was brought to me by Disability Rights California. And so I've been working with them over the years because I was a co-chair of the Voting Accessibility Advisory Committee for the Secretary of State's office. And I've my department as county clerk, we were a leader in the state on voter accessibility issues. So this bill was brought to me by the Disability Rights California. So happy to carry that on their behalf.
Gail, what was it? 27 years as county clerk?
Yes.
And yet you have the elevator speech down where you can give us 1 or 2 sentences about any bill, and that's not in the job description for county clerk. So well done, Gail.
Well, it calls on my days, but I did work for the state assembly, and I managed the assembly floor and committees. So, But the other bill, just real quick, that I'm excited about is the psychiatric advance directive. So it's basically an advance directive that includes a space for individuals to make a separate mental health agent agreement for decisions related to your mental health. So you have one for your physical health, right, that you can turn over decisions about your physical health to a loved one. And this allows you to also do it for your mental health. So I'm working with the psychiatric community on doing this bill, and I think it's going to be a great change to our California law.
I got it. And did that one come to you fully formed, as you said?
I believe, yes. Yeah, we got that one. Well, everything's subject to amendments and public hearings and scrutiny, and so we'll be massaging that along the way as it goes through the process. But, we're excited about that one. That's going to be a good change for people.
Got it. I'm looking back at my notes. Before you were county clerk, you worked for Rusty Arias, who was in the assembly, and then you spent from the Los Banos district, and then you ended up working for the speaker's office at the assembly, correct?
Correct, yes.
And did you have to have an elevator speech about any bill at that time too? Or I'm just wondering where you picked up this skill, Gail.
Yeah, no, I mean, we basically tracked every single piece of legislation and had summaries on every bill, pros and cons, and who it helped, who it might hurt, and whether there's any conflict with other code sections. So, so I've done a lot of that staff work, and I'm very familiar with what it takes to move a bill from conception to enactment.
So the comment that was sent in about FEMA being still open at the Felton Library came from Ellen, alert listener. And Ellen said they called the library yesterday to check.
Oh, good.
So, Gail, we're going to be talking to you. We think the plan is the third Friday of every month. And we're going to dive into this. Today we did deadlines and rules committee. We'll see where it goes next month. You are listening to KZSE Santa Cruz. This is the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club. I'm Dangerous Dan.
I'm Calamity Kyle.
I'm Chaos.
And we've been talking with Gail Pellerin, our assembly member up in Sacramento. Gail, any last words for folks before we go to the KPFA Morning News?
Just, thank you all so much, and enjoy this beautiful weekend. It's President's Weekend, and enjoy some time with your friends and family.
There we go. Thanks for the call, Gail. We'll be talking to you next month.
Thanks, Gail.
All right. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to a podcast from an interview on the Bushwhackers Breakfast Club on KZSC 88.1 FM in Santa Cruz, California. This interview has been produced by myself, Dangerous Dan Orange. KZSC is a student-run college and community non-commercial educational radio station broadcasting from the UC Santa Cruz campus. You can stream KZSC online at kzsc.org. Thanks for listening.